Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. Happy Wednesday and May 4th. Of course, May the 4th be with you if you are in that popular culture, and otherwise, hope you're having an amazing day. So we're going to take a look here at Apecoin, of course, see kind of what's going on, help understand best practice and big picture, and basically just take a look at what might happen next. If you're new to the channel, I'm not a financial advisor. I just love teaching people how to trade. Really hope you can learn something here today. That being said, we're going to go ahead and take a look at, let me go ahead and pull up the right chart here, apologize. There we go. Yeah, so once again, Apecoin. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, if you're new to the channel, CryptoCache.tech is a site, link in the description below, if you do want to become a better trader. Check that out in your own time, of course. We've got a trading community, academy, and signal group. So that being said, taking a look here at the daily, here's kind of what's going on. First of all, big picture on the daily, we've seen some pretty significant sell-off. Now, it makes perfect sense because a lot of this increase here was in preparation for a specific fundamental catalyst that caused the price action to increase. I don't remember the specific exact reason, but I know it has something to do with the ecosystem and, essentially using coins to influence what this is here. That being said, I know that seems very anonymous and strange, but generally speaking, there's things that drive price action higher, and that was a very strong fundamental catalyst. Okay, that's just the bottom line. But when it gets overextended like it did, well outside standard deviation, it needs to come back down. So just keep in mind, again, that this parabolic type of increase, almost really has to correct itself before it can continue higher. All right, so I'm glad that it did. It's obviously a significant, strong correction. But when I covered this here recently, I was warning that if we closed under $20.75, we'd have a likely continuation of the downside, and it has happened. So again, obviously this isn't a told you so, but this is just in general, you can kind of see when you have a very significant gravestone pattern where the price is like significantly, closing at the same place that it opened. In most cases, you're going to see the price turn around from there. All right. That being said, today is also printing a very similar pattern. so far, again, the one-day candlestick hasn't closed yet, but it's not looking fantastic for Apecoin. There was a good effort today, got rejected out somewhere here at about 1682, which is essentially a previous resistance level / current Fibonacci retracement level. So again, some things we got to kind of pay attention to, but generally speaking, it's not phenomenal here. It doesn't look excellent. All right, taking a look at the moving averages, we do have the 20-day cent moving average working its way up. That is kind of tentatively working also as a resistance. We'll see how that happens later. We're back down, and I wonder, because I don't think we've ever been below 50 on the RSI. That's extremely important to understand, because when you're under 50 on the RSI, that can work as a strong resistance, just as 70 can work as a support or resistance as well, depending on the side that you're on. Now that we're on the bottom or underneath the 50, we can expect that is going to continue to work as a resistance level. Therefore, the price should not continue to progress higher unless, again, of course, there's a strong shift in momentum on the 1 hour and 4 hour. We'll look at that next, but at this point, the daily doesn't look phenomenal, but it's not terrible yet either because the candlestick hasn't closed yet. All right, so again, just note we have a bearish type of divergence here, and continuation of the downside is potentially more likely than a reversal at this point. All right. So just big picture, that's kind of what we're looking at there. Taking a look at the 4 hour, we can see the 20-day SMA essentially working as a potential resistance, but more importantly, the 50 will be the one that we want to pay most attention to, because of the simple fact that is more of a legitimate indicator, in my personal opinion. The 50 on the 4 hour does work very well as a strong resistance and support. Right now, it's working as a resistance level for Bitcoin, but it just broke above, and we'll see, of course, here soon how that factors in. But generally speaking, Apecoin is looking like it wants to retrace. But keep in mind, this candlestick here that we saw, this very strong 4 hour candlestick, Bitcoin had jumped up about 2% in that time frame as well. Okay, so again, there is some reliance on Bitcoin's success, whereas this current 4 hour candle that's forming still is also the same color on Bitcoin. We got a red 4 hour candle so far on Bitcoin. So we've got to be realistic in the fact that when coins increase like it did, and it starts to decrease again, in most cases when coins move independent of Bitcoin, which this was doing for some time, they'll start aligning themselves with Bitcoin as a result of a major sell-off. So now that we've seen this correction, and it's corrected itself, for lack of better terms, we're probably going to see more synonymous price action with Bitcoin than we will any other coin. All right. So just keep that in mind. Apecoin is kind of falling so far in the last 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours, very similar behavior to Bitcoin. All right, so just important thing to recognize. But the 4-hour time frame here, we still got some resistances. We're under 50 on the RSI. Even though we do have a MACD convergence, that's not the only reason why you want to take a position. Okay. Now, obviously, it's easy to say now. And in hindsight, had we taken a position at that convergence, we could have seen that nice price increase, right? That's usually the play that you want to make, is looking at the 4-hour MACD convergence and kind of getting an estimate. Is it going to converge? Well, now that it has already converged, it doesn't mean you want to jump right in, if that makes sense. All right, so just be cautious if you're considering taking a position, because this could totally happen. And unfortunately, that's essentially what we saw here. Significant amount of volume in that one time frame, and of course a significant sell-off as well to take the profits and to effectively pad the bags for the whales. But taking a look at the 1 hour, let's go ahead and see if we got anything worth note here. TD sequential isn't really telling us too much. We came down to a 9 previously, been chopping back and forth between 4, 5, and 6 for some time. Even though we did come up to an 8 here, we got a reset and we're down to a 2. So there's not really much continuation here we could expect. I mean, the price could literally increase for another few hours, but we truly don't know. It really is fairly dependent on Bitcoin. And today, Bitcoin has a Fed meeting. Well, it's not Bitcoin's Fed meeting, but the Fed meeting will influence heavily what Bitcoin does, essentially. And that's something you want to be mindful of. So that's 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to check that out, or perhaps even look back and see what happened if you're watching this a little later. And we'll see kind of how that affects Apecoin here. But again, this significant volume increase followed by a sell-off, which is very similar to Bitcoin. Just keep that in mind, all right? That synonymous behavior. Taking a look at Ishimoku Cloud, you can see we got a strong rejection, even though it broke above. No guarantees. You always want to wait for confirmation. There was no confirmation. The price continued back down, and now it's testing this lower lead. So now that the price is within the cloud, it's considered to be a no-buy zone, and you want to wait for it to make a decision. Okay. So essentially at this point, we don't have any confirmation that we want to take a position here with Apecoin, because the likelihood of it continuing down lower is still there, especially if you consider the larger time frame here. And why don't we take a look at the volume profile too and see where the most amount of volume is right there at the current price point, or just essentially right at that Fibonacci level of 1387. So 1387, you could maybe say round number of $14 is essentially where the most amount of volume we have accumulated is, and that's where we saw a bounce here today. So that in that sense alone, there's a strong likelihood that the bottom is $14. Okay, so if you just look at the macro alone and kind of go with volume, which oftentimes is a pretty big deal, it can typically tell you a lot. I think we're probably in pretty good shape to not see the price go lower, but it doesn't mean you go all in at this point, because we don't truly know yet. All right, we don't have confirmation. Today's gravestone candle could essentially continue lower. There's in most cases you see that happen when you see a gravestone. Again, candlestick hasn't closed yet. It's a little too early, but generally speaking, that's kind of what we want to look at. So I would say in the overall sense of things, the macro still looks good. Even though we have a pretty significant bearish divergence here, we could and should be at the bottom based on the volume profile. But if you look at everything else, it isn't giving us any indication that it wants to continue higher and stay higher. We had this massive pump and a massive dump as a result of Bitcoin increasing by a small percent. We need to be aware of that too. So pay attention to the synonymous behavior we see between Bitcoin and this coin. And I think that'll help us, tell a lot of what's going to happen in the future. So I would venture to guess if Bitcoin goes up, Apecoin's going to go up as well. It's just a hunch. Either way, I hope you learned something here today. If you want to become a better trader, CryptoCache.tech is a site, link in the description below. I do provide a trading academy, community, and signal group where essentially I provide all my trades to you, as well as the fact that I provide a trading academy to teach you how to become a better trader. And I'm always adding more content to that monthly. This month as well, I'll probably be adding more things along the lines of dollar cost averaging and advanced trading techniques. That being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day. May the 4th be with you, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Thank you.